This is Kaoliang liquor. It is a wheat and sorghum-based distillate that comes from Taiwan. It is, to date, the worst thing I've ever drank, and according to the comments on the video where I reviewed a bunch of these last week, the worst thing just about anybody who's ever drank has ever drank. Kaoliang tastes, I think, to sum it up, like wet dog, wet dead dog, wet rotten dog full of maggots. Corpse maggots, wet dank dog, and rotting grass. That's about what it tastes like, smells like. It's what it is, actually. It's a flavor that doesn't just happen to you. It comes in to stay. It shows up for the weekend. You drink it and then you keep tasting it as you breathe, as you try to cleanse your palate with seltzer. The seltzer bubbles will explode with it. It will haunt your dreams. It will just stay with you forever. I think that this is going to be a failure. I don't think I'm gonna be able to pull off a cocktail that is good with this. Of course, I could just bury it in a bunch of other ingredients and try to disappear it and use a very small amount or use it as a rinse or a dash, something like that. But that feels like it's not in the spirit of what I'm trying to do here. I have to make a cocktail that features it as its primary flavor note in a way that could at least conceivably be enjoyed by people, if not myself, right? So let's try some kind of thing that's like a margarita with this, and I might try to pack it with a few extra flavors. That might be misguided. I'm just thinking out loud, that might be a mistake. It might be a mistake to try to do that. I might just make it worse. But, I don't know what else to do here. I really don't. I'm gonna cut a lime in half, just so that I can rim the glass. I don't know that this is going to have lime juice in it. It might be lemon. I'm still thinking this through. Get this silly Masters of Mixes margarita salt, perfect for all margaritas, as it says. Paint your lime juice or whatever it is on the outside of your glass. Dip. It's totally solidified. Dip it in there, boop, boop. This looks like shit. I did a very bad job today. I've never done the plunge. I've had some people kind of make fun of the way that I go like this, but you get a much better result. Let's think this through. We're gonna use our Kaoliang. We're gonna use lime juice. I don't know. There's a part of me that wants to do lemon. Why do I think lemon is better? Let's split it. Let's do lemon and lime. No reason not to. Gonna cut this lemon up. There's a ½ ounce of lime juice in my measuring cup, my anti-censoring cup. There's some concerns that I can't call this thing by its proper name. ½ ounce of lime, ½ ounce of lemon. Let's do 1 ounce of Cointreau. That's going to be a bit sweet and a bit tart. For the record, the way I usually make a margarita is in a very traditional way. 1 ounce of lime juice, 1 ounce of Cointreau, 2 ounces of tequila, maybe a bar spoon of simple or two, just to lift it up a little bit. I know a lot of people like their margaritas quite sweet. I tend to favor actually pretty dry margaritas. A lot of times I'll use Curacao instead of Cointreau because that brings a little bit of sweetness, and then you don't really need to back sweeten with any simple or anything like that. Okay, we've got our sour, our modifier in there. Let's start with 1 ounce of Kaoliang, and we'll think of it like as a split base, right? So that maybe we'll pair it up with a different spirit. I don't really know yet. I might have to put the other ½ ounce or ounce in there to just make it all Kaoliang. Brings me pain to work with this stuff. Fun thing, I've never distilled. I know a little bit about the process, just from in general. Some comments based on my tasting notes said, boy, it sounds like they just didn't cut the tails out of the distillation process, which might be true. When you distill, you're gonna start your process. You put your beer into the pot, and then you start to bring it up to temperature. As it comes up to temperature, it starts distilling. The first part, that's the head cut, some of that's not good alcohol. There's a lot of other things that wind up in there, esters and methyl alcohols and stuff like that, wood alcohols. You don't want those, so you throw that part away. Oh, now we're getting into the heart. That's the stuff you want. That's the good stuff, the ethanol and the happy parts, and that's the part you take. And then at some point you stop, even though more juice is coming out, because that's the tail. That's the bad stuff again. Distillers in the comments said, yeah, it sounds like they just leave the tails in on that. And they might, which means it might not be the safest thing to drink. All right, so this is bone dry, lemon, lime, Kaoliang, and Cointreau. Just bar spoon taste. I think we might be onto something here. I am going to now do a split base. We're gonna do tequila. I brought this La Tromba, but I don't think it matters too much. I'm really much, I'm impressed by how not retch-inducing that was. You know, we'll see. The proof will be in the pudding, as they say. So 1 ounce of Reposado, but I think you could use a Blanco as well, doesn't really matter. Yeah, I'll do a couple bar spoons of the simple syrup. Why not? Uno. Dos so, and a little bit more so. Let's get our ice. All right, here we go, the Kaoliang No.1. Yeah, oh yeah, wet dog right away. You can smell it immediately. Quite a bit of it. You know, it does pull it apart a lot. And obviously I'm not jumping out of my skin. I'm a little bit more prepared for where this is going. I don't like it, and that's a subjective thing. Honestly, I don't know that you could do much better coming up with a cocktail for this stuff than essentially what this achieves. Not that there's not a better cocktail for Kaoliang, but this does give me hope. The salt is huge. The big mouthful of salt is really doing a lot here that might be cheating, because it's not like in a margarita necessarily where it's helping expand and bring the flavors together, you know, because like the lime and the fruit wants a little salt to lift it. It's more kind of overwhelming your taste buds to help hide some of the less pleasant parts of our Kaoliang. I think splitting the lemon and the lime was a good choice. I actually think that going more lemon than lime would be wise if you didn't want to do both. So you do get all of the bad things about Kaoliang. So in that regard, it's a total success. Like, it's not hidden at all. It's not a joy to drink, but I could see somebody, you know, with kind of an intellectual approach to tasting say like, that's interesting. You know, it's got some fascinating notes in there. You know, it's like a kind of glass to ponder. It is wet dog and rotting grass through and through, but they kind of come in 3 waves, and they take a little break between them. And they don't hit you quite as hard as this does when you drink it straight or neat, which of course is, you know, a lot. It's really overwhelming. It's definitely, like, an acquired taste is a huge understatement here. It tastes like a hoarder's house, just like rot and decay and stinky wet dog and lime and salt, and it's got some brightness and lift to it. I think the salt is really shortening the run on the Kaoliang notes, and then it comes back, but it comes back there in a really reduced volume that is, oh, and then it's back a 3rd time. That's what I'm saying. You get this like kind of whoomph, whoomph, whoomph. It's like a tape delay, like an echo. It kind of puts the brakes on it enough that you can like get a little objectivity and like look at the flavor, as opposed to it just sort of overwhelming your senses and knocking you to the floor. I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who's like seeking this flavor, but the scientist in me has to entertain the possibility that they exist, and that if that is true, then to some degree, because we've achieved a kind of balance here and a sort of tension in flavors, and we've done the job that a cocktail does when it's doing its job right, which is not hide the spirit, long and lengthen the flavor notes of the spirit, pair it with complementary flavors, that kind of thing. It's a successful cocktail. I really didn't expect this to happen. I'm honestly, from a content perspective, disappointed. I was hoping for this to be a huge disaster. On the good news is that now I don't have to pull like some ripcord where I've made like 8 Kaoliang attempts and just be like, I can't do anymore. That's nice. The thing, you know, it's a flavor that it does taste like rot. It tastes like rot. It tastes like rotting, nasty, stinky stuff. It really does. There's just no getting around it. But some people like durian. You know, like that's really what we're at here. Well, I'm pleasantly surprised at how this came out. And by the way, How to Drink is supported by viewers like you, who have chosen to support the show through Patreon. If you love How to Drink and you haven't checked out my Patreon, you really owe it to yourself and me to go do that, because it is frankly keeping the lights on. It is the thing that makes this show possible. On my Patreon, you're gonna find access to our private Discord server, which I'm in and you're in and all of our fans are in, cutting it up and shooting the shit and chewing the fat and on the blower and talking the talk and walking the walk. It's all over there on our Discord. You're gonna get access to these episodes without ads. Some of these episodes are gonna have bonus cocktails in them. Maybe this one, if I can stomach an extra one of Kaoliang, I probably can't. You will get occasional looks behind the scenes at what's going on as I develop the show and build things out and figure this out and make that work. We'll discuss upcoming episodes. There are other things that are in the works for Patreon that I'm hesitant to bring up until they're a little bit more fully realized, but it is an expanding ecosystem of stuff that if you love how to drink and want more of it, it's right there. And if you want more of it and you want to see it continue and keep going and help me say no to sponsors from time to time, please check out the Patreon, just peruse it, see if there's anything over there that works for you. And thank you for doing so. And to everybody who's been supporting the show for however long you've been supporting it, thank you all so much for making all of this possible. Really, I could not do this without you. Thank you. And now I gotta get to the next cocktail. So we've done a sour. A margarita is a sour. A lot of times I take the Spirit of Doom. Maybe that's a good name for this series. The Spirit of Doom. A lot of times I take the Spirit of Doom and I will punch it through the last word formula, because usually it's a really good way to just get a cocktail out of something really fast. But that's also a kind of a sour. It is a sour, and we've done a sour, and so I want to move on from a sour. Let's try to think about something else. What about something in the Negroni space? I wonder if Kaoliang could maybe replace the gin or augment the gin in something like a Negroni. Now that's a cool idea. It might be a flawed idea, but it's maybe worth exploring. The idea of doing a stirred cocktail, i.e. a less dilute cocktail with Kaoliang, is one that frightens me. To be perfectly honest, I don't know how I feel about this. And a lot of you probably don't even like Campari, and you're thinking, oh my God, he's putting together two things I hate. Well, that's a matter of taste. Lots of people love Campari, and Campari is loud enough to really stand up against the Kaoliang liquor. Let's try to make a Calaroni, a Count Kaoliang. I like that. All right, let me think here for a second. I want to do Kaoliang, obviously. I have a bottle of Campari here, so we know we're going to need that. Could I use Aperol? No, it's not loud enough. Could I use like Angostura bitters? Maybe. To that end, actually, normally this drink would have a vermouth in it, but vermouth is not loud enough. I actually think we want to go with an Amaro. I already mentioned Angostura. Where's my Amaro Di Angostura? Why don't we do that? That might have a shot at being good. It's certainly got enough hoots in it to potentially compete with our Kaoliang. I just saw that. There it is. Oh, and the other bottle I wanted to play with too. Cool. All right, so let's try this. What the hey? Daddy-o, man. I have misgivings here. I don't think we're gonna have a really great result, but we'll see. 1 ounce of Campari. 1 ounce of Amaro Di Angostura. Why an Amaro? Well, honestly, I think there's an argument to be made that, like, conceptually, Amaro and vermouth aren't that far away from each other. They're aromatized, bittered things. It's just that the Amaro is distilled and more so, and the vermouth is like fortified wine, so it's wine that you add some stuff to. Sort of makes sense. We will see. Okay, equal parts of those fellers. Kaoliang, do we go equal? You know what, I have enough room in this glass that I can go equal and then change the balance after the fact if I want to. Let's give that a good stir. Give it a good stir on camera. This particular glass has a system of ridges inside of it that make it kind of, I don't like stirring in it. I'm just realizing. It's a sound I'm not a fan of. Give this an orange twist. Oh man, that is really something on the nose. All right, here we go. Ooh, boy. That's got some notes in there. Orange, dog, and orange dog. Funkadunka. Funkalonka-dunka-doo. You know, I mean, I think my logic was sound. I'm getting a progression of flavors here. The bitterness of the Campari is distracting in a way that is maybe burying some of the less pleasant parts of the Kaoliang. And if you like Campari, you would drink a Negroni, and therefore this would be a win for you. I'm not actually always a huge fan of Negronis, but I don't immediately hate this. I'm taking the teeniest sips that I can, by the way. The orange twist, and Campari has a lot of orange notes in it as well, is pleasant. I like the orange parts of this. I think I was picking up on some of the spices of the Amaro Di Angostura. I'm not really 100% sure. Boy, is Kaoliang funky. But I'm not gonna say it mixes well. I'm not gonna say it yields an immediately enjoyable cocktail, but it is something that some people would definitely be able to wrap their mouths around. Like, it's not beyond the pale, which, if I'm not mistaken, the pale was a fence that went around our settlement in ye olden days. So it's not from like outer wilderness, outer darkness or something like that. But it is, huh? What is that? What's in there? You're still getting those Kaoliang notes, that wet dog, that stuff, you know? Like, it's got all that stuff going on. It's just with the volume turned down a bit. And you know, the truth of the matter is, right, like, this, to my mouth, has been the harshest of the Kaoliangs, just the most extreme. There probably are, you know, ones that are even less enjoyable, but I feel like it's a good place to work, because if we're getting stuff that's like quasi-palatable here, you know, if you had a Kaoliang of choice or a Baijiu of choice, it would probably work even more so. This one I'm wondering if we can improve on. Whew, man, it does take a turn through like swamp, just dank. It's a really specific kind of dump note. There's literally a dump, like a place where they dump garbage, not super far from me. And sometimes, more so in the winter than the summer, you'd be surprised, you catch a whiff of it, and that's about what it's like. That and kind of low tide. There's some low tide action in there. Yeah, I mean, but it's not the only note. And if it were, I would say, okay, well, this doesn't have evolution, therefore it's not really an interesting cocktail. It's not the only note. It is a very divisive note. It's not one that I want, but I could see somebody seeking that out. I mean, people seek out mezcals and Islay scotches, and they're not necessarily, like, most people find those totally unpalatable. So I can't say that it's a bad drink. There is a kind of distant, bitter, super ultra dark chocolate note that I've picked up on here a couple times, but like, it's not chocolate like you would recognize. Like, it's chocolate the way that like someone who tastes coffee, I think, would say, oh, there's chocolatey notes or caramel notes in here. It's not sweet. It's not, oh, yummy, Hershey bar. It's nothing like that. It's like chocolate in the way that a chemist might refer to chocolate. So I wonder if there's like a way to accentuate that. But we've already gone with Amaro Di Angostura, and that would kind of be my way to do that, really, other than like throwing straight up coffee, which I think would be a huge mistake here, or Kahlua or some kind of like hazelnut liqueur or something like that. So I'm a little bit at a loss for where to turn to. You know, just dumping creme de cacao in there would be a mistake, because at that point, like, now we're not even accentuating the natural occurring chocolatey synthesis that's happening in here. We're just burying it with chocolate notes. We're just dumping them on there. So I don't know, maybe you just have to appreciate it for what it is. I wonder, like, there's already orange on it, but I do wonder, I think a lemon twist on this particular drink might be even more preferable, or possibly even both, just because like it's brighter in its composition and profile. I mean, it's a very nice nose this way. I think that actually makes a really big difference. I actually think that, yeah, that's a huge difference. That for me is pushing this in the direction of subjectively enjoyable. But believe it or not, lemon here tilts this in the direction of like, it brings up in my mind like things like lemon ricotta pancakes, which I associate with sweets, which in turn kind of brings the chocolate out of your memory space a little bit more. And now all of a sudden, like, the chocolate is louder by its association with being in that world of confections and sweets. For me, it's just like my subjective experience, because the lemon connects back to things like a lemon pancake or French toast with like a little lemon zest on top of it. Good things, good things. Funny enough, I'm getting quite a bit less of our Kaoliang now. There's a kind of an effect, I think, with the lemon that's like so bright and so just Mr. Clean that it does kind of bury those things, or at least diminish them. But it was also a really tiny sip, so let's do it again. I was about to say, I'm starting to actually like this, but then there's this exhale note when the air leaves your lungs after you've been sitting on it for a second in the mouth, and it just brings up this dump-like, the wet dog is deeply diminished in this, but like dump-like hot diaper kind of smell that is not great, but that could be an acquired taste for somebody. You might develop an appreciation for those notes. I'm not interested in doing so. But if we're trying to make Kaoliang cocktails, I think you could do a lot worse. So we've done sour and we've done bitter. Where do we go from here? I'm just impressed with myself. No, what I was gonna say is I'm impressed with the science of flavor, the science of mixology, the fact that you pick up a certain skill set and refine a palate for a while, or 460 some odd episodes of How to Drink, you can start to apply that science to things and arrive at not the worst places, even though you're starting from, I would say, literal hell. All right, so I don't know what to do here. We've done bitter, we've done sour. What's next, says I? Let's think about this for just a moment. I wonder what Kaoliang and Coke tastes like. You know, what the heck? We're just new boot goofing. Hit it with a squeeze of the lime juice. Let's pour in 1.5 ounces of Kaoliang. Everybody's favorite Kaoliang liquor. I immediately, as this scent hits my nose, am regretting the choice of carbonating Kaoliang liquor. Ah, that's an aroma. Ooh. So we got a lot of wet dog going on over here. Every one of these feels like Russian roulette. Like, you know, so far you've lucked out, Greg. This could be the one that just slaps you in the face with all that goodness. That's kind of cool. Now, hey, that's interesting. This forms a chord. Damn it, though. The Kaoliang does come back really strong at the end, but like for a moment there, the lime, Coke, and Kaoliang form this third flavor that is like a root beer like you've never had. It is nothing like a root beer that you're familiar with, but a beer of roots. Like, it has a very earthy, bitter, yeah, metallic kind of tang to it that I found very interesting at the minimum, maybe even desirable. Unfortunately, the lingering part of the Kaoliang that hangs out to the end is not to my liking at all. But boy, that first tick, that first beat is kind of cool. Wow. And it actually does taste like dog. I mean, it puts that wet dog note in there, but it puts a spin on it that, honestly, this is the best one. Kaoliang and Coke is remarkable for how transformative it is. I mean, think about it, right? Like, Coca-Cola has so many buried flavors in it. If you know anything about the recipe behind Coca-Cola, there's a lot of things that make a Coca-Cola. There's a bunch of different herbal essences and citrus essences, oils, all kinds of things that, you know, are in there, or at least historically were in there, and they're now being replicated. And it just becomes this melange. It becomes this like new gestalt flavor that's a combination of all those other things. And the Kaoliang has such a weird set of flavor. It feels like, oh, this is the antibody. This is the virus that was specifically built to fit into this cell and rip it apart. You know, like they have the receptors for each other. There is some very strange magic happening in this particular glass. That's bizarre. God damn it, I think I like that. I don't think I'm ever drinking it again, but hot diggity dog, we found something new here. This is way beyond, in my opinion, there's like salty notes in that. This is way beyond simply taking Kaoliang and making a quasi-palatable cocktail out of it. This is actually transformative. This is unreal. I'm blown away. There are like salty peanutty notes in here. There is this tangy metallic flavor that isn't, you know, it's not the worst. It's different. It's a real, you feel like you're kind of exploring sort of uncharted flavor territory with your mouth here, you know? Oh man, sometimes it gets a little funky, but it doesn't stay there very long. And then when you get that funky note, it gets very unpleasantly funky, very fast, and then comes off of that pretty quickly and turns into this kind of raisinish note that is not the worst thing. I almost wonder if there's like a third bit here that we could put into this. We got some lime, we've got some Kaoliang, maybe some bitters, maybe orange bitters, maybe. I don't know about that. Maybe some saline. Well, you know what? We can throw a dash or two of saline in there. Just give it an idea taste. We were already picking up some salty notes, but what if we lean in a little bit? No major effect. It wants, I don't want to say it wants lemon, but it wants some kind of brightness. But like, wait a minute. My old pal, Fernet. You know, other thing, if I had Fernet Menta, like the mint ferment, I don't think I have a bottle of that around. That might be the way to go. Let's do 2 bar spoons here. It honestly, it's not, that's what's going on here. It's not super far off from a Fernet and Coke to begin with. So this might be a mistake, right? Like if it's already almost Fernet and Coke, it's a mistake to add Fernet to it because we're not doing anything new. We're not adding to it. We're just doubling down on what's already there. Now that's pretty sweet. That's pretty cool. I think I may have stumbled into a genuinely good cocktail, a drink. I have a hard time calling a mixer and beverage a cocktail. Although there's enough going on here now. We got lime, Fernet, Kaoliang, Coca-Cola. I think we may have stumbled into an actually good, subjectively, if these are hitting, you know, 4 or 5% of the audience with flavors that they would like, I think we're hitting, I'm gonna be very, very optimistic here and say 25 to 30% of the audience would like this. It's challenging, no doubt, but it's not beyond your grasp. I think you could get into this. Oh man, that's crazy. All right, I did not expect that. I did not at all expect to find something that was like, all right. There is, yeah. All right, I just got an old carpet note. So like you're gonna get surprised while you drink that with some late arriving Kaoliang notes, like old carpet, wet carpet just came through there from out like the toxic kind too, like some kind of not good for you smells and tastes. And if you make this, do not use a straw. If you use a straw, it's going to be much too fast, much too aggressive, like sip it from the top. I know a lot of like your mixer and spirit, you know, long drinks like that get a straw. Don't do that. And I don't have it with me and I'm not gonna bother to go get it, but I don't think a sprig of mint would be out of place in that drink. Kaoliang is a very challenging spirit to work with, in my opinion, because if you're just playing around with it, you're gonna make stuff that's disgusting. I swear I threaded 4 needles here, assuming I was going to fail, and actually coming up with things that I don't think are without merit. I'm sure they can all be improved on and refined. I would love to know what you do with this, if anything. All of my assumptions, well, no, not all of them. All my assumptions about how to work with it were right, but all of my assumptions about my ability to work with it were wrong. So what does that mean? I don't know. Of them though, by far, the Kaoliang and Coke is not just my favorite, but the most interesting to me. There is some kind of transformative thing happening in there. It's pretty cool. The other ones approach that, probably my least favorite of these actually is the Kaoliang margarita. Let's name them. Kaoliang Margarita. What do you call that? Kalarita? Nah. How about a, yeah. All right, I'm calling this a Tijuana Bathtub. I am calling this a, Tijuana Bathtub's a great name for a cocktail. I'm quite proud of that, actually. This will be the, well, like Count Negroni is the Count. He's like a royal figure. He's a figure of peerage. I don't know a lot about the Chinese Civil War, but essentially the nationalists got run out by the communists, and I think the nationalists were pro imperial royalty. So maybe this is like a, The Last Emperor. I've only seen it once, but boy, is that a beautiful film. Just visually, really sumptuous. You should watch it on Midnight Local, the podcast that Meredith and I have together. This one is, if I knew my Chinese military history, I might name it after some suicide charge. Just because I've always associated rum and coke with the Spanish-American War and Teddy Roosevelt storming San Juan Hill and all of that. So I don't know my history enough to name this drink for that. Maybe because of Coca-Cola's history around the world, we'll call this one the Gunpoint Export. Please don't come after me, Coca-Cola. This has been Kaoliang Cocktails from How to Drink. If you like the show, please like and subscribe and check out my Patreon. I mean, forget meaning a lot to me, like on an emotional level, it makes the show possible. Until next time, good night and good luck. And let's work on some less challenging spirits next time, or some more ones, I don't know. Oh, if there's anything that you want me to do in this series, people have brought up Stro 80. I have seen some names from, Amaro Di Angostura, like some Norwegian things that I can't remember. There's been some stuff from, Eastern Europe that I can't remember that have shown up in my comments. If there's a famously challenging spirit that you want me to try to make cocktails from, well, let me know in the comments below. I will be back very soon with another episode of HTD, and until then, good night, good luck. Who's your friend? It's Greg.